All right, back in the garage today working on the 73 Camaro, and I've been drilling out spot welds in the fenders to raise the center of the fenders up to match the hood, like I showed you that was an issue in the earlier part of the video, or I may have put it in the video before this one. But I got it all looking good. I got screws holding the fenders where they need to be in place so I can start doing the tack welds back. But before I did that, I wanted to show you how the fenders to hood matches now, and then I'll take the hood off and then weld them up, because I don't want to get weld splatter on the billet hinges that he's got or anything like that. But it's looking really good now. I'll flip the camera around so you can see it. All right, so it no more has the hood was sticking up past the fender in the center. No more of that. Nice and level, really good. The gap is nice and straight. I will be welding filler rod to the hood to tighten the gap up. It's going to need it on both sides. Kind of from when I raise that fender up, it's naturally where the bend is in the fender. It's going to come out a little bit more. But instead of welding on the fender itself, I'm going to weld on the hood to take the gap up, just because that's going to look better and not be noticeable. But same thing with the passenger side. It's a little bit tighter in the back, so I won't have to put as much. I won't really have to put rod in the back. It's just on the front half of the fender, which it was before I even messed with anything. It was tight on the back side, but once I undid the spot welds, I didn't even have to pry up on this side. It just, as soon as I drilled through the last hole, it popped up where it needed to be. So it was just pushed down way too far. But it is the same. It's nice and even out through there now, instead of the hood sticking up in the middle of the fenders. And then I'll take care of that gap. Gaps up here are real nice. I think I mentioned how I got this corner to sit down like it was supposed to. I'll pop the hood here, grab a light, and I'll show you just how far the fender had to go up. You can't even see where I drilled the spot weld out. It's almost basically a whole size up higher than what it was tacked on to get this center to be where it needs to be at. And then up here towards the front, it didn't really need any movement, so it's still real close. The other side is basically the same way. So like I said, it moved up on its own. You can see just how far that it needed to move up to get the follow the right contour. And for those of you that might be thinking, well, why didn't I just adjust the hood to have the right gap to the fender? Well, if you look on the hood hinge is all the way down. So I couldn't go down any further to get the hood down lower. I actually raised the fender up just a little bit so I could move the hood hinge up just a little bit, just in case once I get everything put back together, I could possibly move the hinge down a little bit more if need be, just so I could have a little bit of movement instead of just having the hinge all the way down. But it's still really close from being all the way down without having to raise that fender up quite a bit to match the hood. I don't believe it's an issue with the hinges. I think it's just an issue with the aftermarket parts. But where I'm at now is I'm going to take the hood off. I'm going to prep the sides of the hood, and this is one reason why I'm going to be welding on the hood to tighten up this gap, is because the hood has a step down just below the edge. So if I build this edge out, it won't be noticeable because it already has a step down. With like the fender, it's flat and flush. So if I build the edge out, I have to build it out basically all the way down, and that wouldn't be really a smart thing to do. So I'm just going to do the hood that way. I'll do both sides, tighten up the gap, and then I'll also weld some filler rod into the back side gaps of the fender. That way I can control and make sure the gaps are real nice and tight on both fenders to the doors. I'll match the same gap as I do on the back of the door here, because this is basically where it needs to be. So with all that being said, I'm going to start taking the hood off and re-tack the fenders on, and I'm happy with how everything is fitting now. It's looking pretty good. The gaps are looking pretty good, and it's quite a few hours just to get to this point, which sucks, but it's going to look better in the long run if all your gaps are tight and uniform, and your hood's not sticking up past the fenders and shit like that. So I'm gonna get back at it, and I'll update you once I'm a little bit further. Okay, so this morning I got the hood off of the Camaro. I welded up all the tacks that I had drilled out of the fenders to be able to move them where they needed to be, and I welded them back both sides. And then I started over here on the driver's side fender, and I've welded one rod all the way from about right here all the way down the length of the fender, and you notice that the gap is a little tight here. I'm going to try and keep it all the same width as this right here. This matches the rear part of the door pretty good. You can see it's about the same width as this right here, and if I tighten that up a little anymore, it's going to be real close from hitting the door, because it's very, very close right here. So I'm going to open this up the same amount as this right here, and I'm going to keep it uniform all the way down. Come off the stool here, and you can see that this is what I'm going to want it. And you see how tight it gets right here. I just added another rod. You can see the end of it right here. That's the thickness of rod it is. I'm not sure what thickness it is, but you can use different sizes to get your gaps that you want right. But the fender opened up a wider gap throughout here with just one rod throughout here. It had still too big of a gap in this area, so I put another rod, started up there, welded it down to this body line down here, and that right there is about the same thickness of gap as this up here. So I'm going to be grinding it down right through here to keep it all uniform. And I took a rod all the way down here, so it's got a nice uniform gap down here at the bottom too. So that looks a whole lot better. So I'm going to grind my welds down. Just take your time and space your tacks out. And I like to use the air, and as I do the tacks, then I'll blow the tacks with air and cool the panel down. That way I can work a little bit faster and tack a little bit quicker. If you don't have a way to cool it down, it takes forever to start tacking again without heating up your fender and warping your metal. So I'm going to grind this down, and then I'm going to grind the edge and make it uniform, and then this gap should be pretty well done. Grind it up there at the top, make make that uniform too, like I said before. But yeah, then this side should be ready to take some mud and make it all nice and even and look real good. It won't take much. They're pretty dang close now. So this side is almost good to go once I grind them welds down. And then I'm going to get a little bit larger of a rod to start doing this side, because it's going to take at least just about the whole length of this fender, because it opens up a whole lot more than that driver's side fender was. But I'm going to keep it about the same width as it looks up here at the top. And so I'm going to start probably in this area here, same as I did at the other fender, and go all the way to the length of this fender and get this gap done. Running out of time today, so I'll probably start that in the morning. And yeah, getting it knocked out to start doing body work here pretty soon. Also, I have to add rod to the hood still, the edges of the hood on both sides, but that won't be too bad. Okay, I think I showed you that I got this driver's side all welded up and grinded down. Gaps look good on it. Yesterday evening I started on this side, and this morning I finished it up. Gaps are a lot tighter now, and that should be good enough for some body work. I'm going to pull both doors off and go in the back side and weld the back side of what I added to these fenders, just to ensure that they're nice and strong. And then clean that up some, and then I'll stick the doors back on and then start doing the filler work on the outside, which it won't need much, but you know, I want it to make sure that it's nice and just like I did in the Nova. If you go back and watch some of my older videos on where I was doing the filler work to the Nova, I'll make sure that the panels are nice and even. It didn't seem like it warped it much at all. I took my time and when I did the welding, but just to make sure that it's all nice. And I probably won't start the filler work until I get the hood back on, because I'll be doing filler work to where the tops of these fenders has got some waves and stuff in them, and I got to add to the hood to tighten up the gaps on the side. So I'll probably do that before I start spreading any filler. But once I start spreading filler, the thing should go pretty quick. Then all this metal work is taking time and such, but once I start doing that and getting it sanded down, it shouldn't take too long to get it in primer and get some paint on it. So taking just a little bit of a break here, and I want to show you just what I'm doing on this side. Just going about an inch or so with some weld, and then as soon as I get off of welding it, I hit it with the air hose and cool it down real quick. That way, try and keep it from warping too much. But yeah, just I probably got it a little bit too hot, but I just want to make sure I get real good penetration down into the gap here, and that way it's nice and strong instead of just building up some weld on the top side. But yeah, getting it all welded together here, and then once I go down the line, I'll do a weld there, and then I'll skip down and go down, and then I'll come back up to the front and repeat the process until all these gaps are welded up. And yeah, once I grind the top side down, then I'll flip the hood over, and on both sides I'll do some larger tack welds down at the underside like I said previously. But yeah, I'll get back to welding. All right, so I've been back in the garage today working on the Camaro. I've already took the doors off, cleaned up the back edge of each fender. I grinded down all the spot welds that I put back on the inside of the fenders, and I've been working on the hood, adding rod to the sides of both sides of the hood. I've already done the passenger side. I welded the rod on and then grinded down the welds. You can see the bottom side. It kind of flows in with the added lip of the hood that was already there, so it won't be noticeable. Once I do this other side, I'll flip it upside down and I'll run a little bit longer tacks on the back side, and then have seam sealer on the backs, on the gaps in between the spot welds. That way it'll look really, really nice under there. This side, I just got done tacking the rod in. I went with a little bit thicker of rod than what I did the door gaps, just so I didn't have to stack the smaller rods. I had these smaller ones, and then this size here is a 3/16, and I'm not sure what size this is. It's just some rod that I had laying around that I ended up using. But I went out and got some 3/16 for these because I had a little bit larger of gaps, and just I'll have plenty to grind down and make the gap as tight as I want. So as you can see, I laid down some spot welds, tack welds, whatever you want to call it. One piece I couldn't get long enough to go the full length of the hood, so it only went to right here, and then I butted it up a little bit smaller of a piece. And then what I'll do is I'll just cut it off right here and then weld the end up. And then this little gap, you can see I done put the spot weld down at the bottom, and I left a little bit of gap in there. That way when I weld it up, it'll basically be a solid joint. If you run that all the way, if you run the two pieces all the way together, your weld won't penetrate as good. So I left it like that, so it should be good. I'll finish up welding this whole side here, and then I'll grind it down smooth. I'm not taking any off of the sides until I put the hood back on the car. Once I get the hood back on the car, then I'll close it down, and I'll take off as much as needed to create a good gap. On this side here of the hood, I went with that 3/16 rod as long as that first piece went, and I stopped there because if you remember how tight it was back here, I probably don't need any rod there, but I went and put that smaller rod that I did the fenders with. I welded it to the end, and so it's going to be a lot closer. Well, I'm trying to put you in mind of what I'm actually doing. I have a 3/16 rod on the hood running the length of that to about right here, and then I went to the smaller rod because this area was closer. The gap was larger out through here. So when I start grinding, I won't have as much to grind because if I would have went the full length with the 3/16 on this side, I would have basically ground the whole rod off. So I didn't want to do that. So if that makes any sense on what I did, good job, because I did a shitty way of explaining it. But I'll get to doing that, and I'll stick the hood back on, get all the gaps where they need to be, and then I should be able to start doing the filler work on it and getting this thing into primer and get this thing knocked out, because the rest of the jobs are stacking up. All right, so I got the hood back on the Camaro and done some grinding on both sides. Got the gaps Every time I start videoing, it seems like I want to start burping and it makes me pause. But I went ahead and started grinding and making the gaps on both sides uniform, and really happy with the way it turned out. Looks really good. The driver and the passenger side now. No huge gaps like they were, and then it was real tight in the back here. Now it's just uniform. Contour fits really good there. It's almost ready for some filler. What I'll do is I'll 80 grit the tops of these fenders here real good, and then I'll skim coat filler over top of everywhere that it was grinded on, and then I'll block and sand and block and sand and block until everything is real nice nice and smooth and ready for primer. Back here I still have to work a little bit right in this area. I had a customer come in that needed some work, so got me it made me pause on this right here, and I haven't came back to it yet. But I was grinding and working this edge because it was a little tight, and I have not finished it. So I got a little bit of work left there, but the rest of it I am really happy with. Front end looks like what it should now, so real happy. I'm about to start sanding on this Camaro in the paint booth here, which I did not show you anything about. It came yesterday for a couple door dings and scratches, and I fixed the dents in it and a scratch, and it's scratched real bad on the door handle too. Put some primer on yesterday after I fixed them, and today or tonight, it's late tonight, I'm going to block this primer. That way in the morning all I have to do is tape it up. I got the paint delivered today, and hopefully paint it tomorrow, try and get it back to them this weekend. But it's I think it's a 2016 SS Camaro. Sound pretty good. It's pretty blue color. I am burping again. But I'm going to wait until the heat kicks on in here and warm it up a little bit, and then we'll come in here and block this primer. Oh, and something else that I haven't talked about, because I was just kind of really in a rush on getting it put up over the weekend, that I didn't film anything or nothing like that, which you can go online or you can go search YouTube and find plenty of people showing you how to put one up. But we have a lift in the garage now. Atlas 8,000 pound 2-post lift. I got the 8,000 pound because of the ceiling height. My ceiling height is just over 10 feet. These columns are 9 feet, and seems to be working really good in the height ceilings that I have. You see the space that I got up there. I've had the coupe car on it already, and a customer came in earlier today, had a exhaust stud that was broke on their I think it was 05, 08, somewhere around in there, Mustang, and it was first customer on the lift. I raised it up, fixed it, and sent her on her way. But really happy. I've wanted one ever since I've had a garage, and just we've lived here right at 4 years now, and my last garage, I was never going to be able to put a lift in it. It was just way too small. But yeah, since we've been in here, I really wanted to get a lift sooner, but just priorities on doing certain things, and I'm pretty happy that I have a lift. May not mean much to some people, but having a lift in my own garage, that's pretty neat. I've wanted it for a while. And I guess I'll quit rambling about it, but we have a lift.